I'm not very loud today, apparently. Okay. Oh, shoot. Oh, okay. Okay, so Facebook's going to take a second here. I screwed up somewhere along the line. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to hit Facebook Live. Apparently I'm up on Twitch, so hello everybody on Twitch. Okay. And, oops. I think I'm there. Pretty much. Just a few more adjustments here. Yes. So I need to turn it up. I think, the air conditioning's running. I don't have my headset on because we're using so I started using a microphone. I didn't tell you that? So, hi everyone. I'm going to start here in just a second. Looks like I need one final adjustment on the volume here. I'm going to just double check the microphone. If you're following along on Twitch, let me know how you're taking the volume here. Let's see. Yep, it's working. Everything. Ooh. Can't see what I'm doing. There we are. Okay. So, am I fine on both? How's the volume doing? I'm going to just double check that. Okay. Okay. It's 1 o'clock. Should probably start here, huh? Oh, geez. It's a pretty day outside. Not as hot as yesterday, but it's getting there. It is absolutely getting there. All right. How's Andy doing? Oh, I know you're waiting on me, and I'm just sort of like giving it a minute to just all kick in, you know? Wow, if only you knew what he was saying to me in here. Apparently I'm daddling here. Okay, so hi. It's Wednesday, August 12th, not July. I almost said July. And what is great? What's new? Oh my gosh, what's great? Virtually Ever Crafting is starting tomorrow, our first ever virtual event on the same weekend that was supposed to be Beat Fest. Oh my gosh, wouldn't it have been great if we were all at Beat Fest right now, but it is what it is and we're making the best of it. Hopefully many of you are joining us, and if you're not, you still have time to register for Zoom sessions, although you're not going to get your kits in time. You can participate with the Zoom and the live and, hanging out with the instructors. And if you're not taking a class, you can definitely join us for the cocktail, which is posted on my Facebook page. So the cocktail is Friday, 5:30 Central. There will be about 5 or 6 vendors, I think. I think we're up to 7 vendors maybe. And, selling a whole bunch of different things. I'm still trying to wrangle a few more people in for the event. Still looking for a pearl vendor. But anyway, so we have a variety of different things going on, and hopefully you'll join us. Have a cocktail, hang out, maybe buy something, whatever, or take a class. Okay, so this is Q Talk Live. I'm Q Fom Gray, and today is demo day. We've decided for this week and next week to do things that are a little bit, just more informative as opposed to a project, because a lot of you are already taxed out going into this weekend. Many of you are signed up for multiple classes. So we thought that, we'd do a review on just various things, and one of which that we're going to go over is today we are going over the flex shaft. Okay, so lots of people have a flex shaft, but most of you, I'm going to bet money, 90% of you have never maintained a flex shaft, nor do you know how. So I thought it would be a good idea to just review some of these things. So I'm going to start from the beginning. Okay, so what's a flex shaft? This is a flex shaft. It's basically a motor with a shaft, a handle piece. You don't see it, but under me is a foot pedal that is very much like a sewing machine, and that's what controls this all together. See, the foot pedal makes it spin. Okay, it is very similar to a Dremel. Okay, I actually borrowed this from a friend because apparently my Dremel walked away at some point. In any case, so it is very much like a Dremel. Can you use it like a Dremel? Yes. Can you use a Dremel instead of a flex shaft? Yes. What is the biggest difference? The biggest difference between a flex shaft and a Dremel is control. Okay, that's the number one biggest difference. Is with the foot pedal you can control your speed. With the Dremel, it's either on one speed, off, or a higher speed. But frankly, I just discovered that looks like his Dremel's broken. Oops. But anyway, so it's either fast or faster. You don't have any control, or you have very little control over how fast you're spinning. So that's one of the biggest difference. The next difference comes in the collet right here. Okay, so this collet is really only for a 3 to 30 second shank. Okay, so it fits right in there. Of course, with a flex shaft, you can definitely use a 3/30 second shank, but if you notice how small it is, that I can get teeny weeny little little drill bits in there, even smaller. I could get a 1mm drill bit in here to drill those little tiny holes for piercing that we like to do. So for really fine work, that's what's great about a flex shaft. And additionally, if you wanted to get that small with a Dremel, you're going to have to buy an adapter. That's all. But more than likely, it's not going to get down to that 1mm size that we like to use for jewelry making. You know, if you have a Dremel, I say you keep it, you use it until you hate it. When you hate it, then go ahead and buy a flex shaft. If you don't have a Dremel, don't buy a flex shaft. I'm sorry, don't buy a Dremel, then buy a flex shaft, because you're just buying twice is the point. And then I've had people say, oh, well, I have a flex shaft for my Dremel. Yes, but no. Okay, so one of my biggest bone of contention with a Dremel is that you see the motor's right here. It's in your hand. So the vibration, if you're doing a lot of things, okay, you're vibrating so much, it's going to wear on your hands, and that's where like carpal tunnel and those kinds of problems come in. Whereas with the flex shaft, the motor is far away and there's less vibration in your hand piece, okay? With the Dremel flex shaft, although you've taken that vibration away, it's basically a flex shaft like this, and it attaches to the end of your Dremel. It's still about speed control. You still have no speed control, or very little speed control. So those are the real big differences in the Dremel and the flex shaft. So, oh, by the way, if you have questions, throw them out. If you're having some problems with your flex shaft or things like that, throw them out there. So then comes a question, what's the difference with what I have versus a Fordham? So this is an inexpensive unit. You can pick up a unit like this for under $100. A Fordham's going to run you about $250. It's considered a professional, more commercial grade, and yeah, it's going to last you a lifetime. And so you really have to consider what you're doing and how much you're using this piece of machinery. So when I started, I called up the vendors and I asked them, and I said, listen, don't sell me this inexpensive piece and in a year have it break, so then I have to buy again, because in the end I'm paying double, right? So either I spend the money up front and have it last longer, or or I don't, so I end up spending double. So what they said was, how much do you plan on using this? If you're doing this professionally and you're going to use your flex shaft, I don't know, 20-30 hours a week, you really need to get into a Fordham, which is, like I said, more of a commercial grade. But if you're like me and you only use your flex shaft intermittently, I don't even think I use this thing an hour a week with what I do. So this is perfect. And you know what? I had my first flex shaft for, how long has it been? 10 years? I had it for like 10 years. And I would take it out to classes and whatnot. And the only reason why I don't have it is because at one of my classes a couple years ago, the student just wanted to buy every single flex shaft I had in the room. And I said, this is old. I've had this for a long time. And she's like, I'll take it. And we were all the way in Washington State. We're in Ohio here. So it's like, okay, I don't have to take it back. You know what? Good deal. It went into a high school classroom. And so I sold it to her. And that's the only reason why I don't have my flex shaft. But if you maintain them and you treat them well, they should keep on working for a pretty long time. I suspect that I would still have that flex shaft today, 15 years later, if I didn't sell it. So So that said, how do we maintain one of these? Okay, so let's go over some of the parts and pieces. All right, so when you receive your flex shaft, you will get a little Allen wrench like this, right? You will also get a chuck, like so. And these pieces, what is that, right? These are bushings, okay? And you know what's funny is I always tell people, don't throw parts and pieces away. You don't know when you're ever going to need them. So do hang on to, do hold on to them, okay? Because I've actually had people go, oh, I didn't know what it was, so I threw it away. Do you think they just gave it to you for fun? I mean, really? But these are bushings. It's what makes everything work nicely. Okay, so we'll start with the bushings, okay? Let's put this back. So hang on to these in a safe place. You know, I have a drawer with all spare parts. It's a thing, and it's listed spare parts right here in the studio, and then the spare parts for everything else in the house goes in a different drawer. Anyway, so here in the studio, this is what we have. You know what? I need to turn off something. I need to turn off my flex shaft. That is important. Wait, I gotta figure out where it's coming in from. Oops. Okay, so I'm gonna unplug my flex shaft. Let's be safe. Okay. So, so if you take your flex shaft, the thing is, remember, this is a motor, okay? It's a vibrating part. So understand that screws come loose. So over time, you might find that some of these screws will come loose. No big deal. Just take out a screwdriver and tighten them up, okay? That's one of the simple things to maintain them. And remember, flex shaft should always be hung or else it'll lose torque, okay? And then if you move this handle here, if you move it to the side, you'll see that you have this screw, okay? This plastic black screw on the side. That is the housing for the bushings. So how do you know when you're going to need to replace the bushing? So yeah, I found out the hard way. So I was talking to a friend of mine, and this is years ago, and I said, yeah, you know, I think it's time to replace the flex shaft because it's hesitating and it's not running smoothly. So it just goes neat, neat, like that as it's running, right? And she said, oh, you might want to replace the bushing. Shout out to Han Santa Cola. Anyway, I was like, oh, is that what those funny little springs are that I've been hanging on to for all these years? Aha! So I went home, did a little research, read the manual, okay, that I didn't throw away, and found out where the bushings are. And they're right here. Okay, so all you have to do is go in here, unscrew it, and voila. It literally pops out. Okay, and you can tell, actually, this is a really new flex shaft, but my bushings was worn all the way down. So that's how they work. Just put it right back in the way you found it, just like so, and screw it back on. There's two of them. There's one on the opposite side also, okay? And if you've actually had your machine that long that you have to replace the bushing a second time, you just order another one. Okay. How do I know this? Because when I bought my first flex shaft, I went through and ordered all spare parts as if I didn't know how often I would need it. But anyway, so you see there's one here and there's one here. So there's two of them. Make sure you replace both of them if your machine is starting to hesitate and do funky things. Okay, so next up is you're going to have to clean out the shaft. How often do you clean it? That's sort of, I don't know, argumentative. Okay, so basically some people say every 3 months and some people say every 50 hours. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I don't have a timer. I don't have a clicker telling me how many hours I've used this thing. The first time I cleaned mine, I think it was 8 years. I know. Anyway, so it really depends on use more than anything. I say, you know, once a year is good, at least, something like that. Okay, so you're going to need some lubrication. Now, Fordham does sell this, but you really need, what you really want is white grease, is what it is considered, okay? And I believe that's considered a lithium-based grease. It's slipping my brain right now. Anyway, okay, so first thing you're going to do, yes, I only had white. So this is butcher block because you do want to make sure that you put down some paper on your workbench if you don't want to get it greasy, okay? And the handpiece, I'm sorry, Andy? Yes. So the question was, would having bad bushings cause a grinding noise? Yeah, more than likely that's the deal. Okay. So anyway, so here's your handpiece. What you want to do is you're going to hold it really tight on both ends between here, because this is going to come apart. It does take a bit of force. There we go. Pull it like you hate it, okay? And it pulls apart. We'll set that aside. And you want to have a rag. I do not like to use paper towels on here, okay? So I have an old t-shirt here, of course. And you're going to take your Allen wrench, and here on the shaft, you can see this right there, okay? I believe that for them you're going to need a really small screwdriver. On these basic generic ones, it's an Allen wrench. Okay, so I'm just going to unscrew that. Keep track of it right there, and this comes right apart. You see that? This whole thing comes out. Just like so. Okay, remember, mine is really new, so you'll see it's not very black, okay? If it wasn't, it would be like really black in color and really greasy. What you want to do is go ahead and take your rag and clean it. Just wipe it down, okay? And take off all the crud. If you've had your flex shaft for a while, this is going to be really black. Even though this is fairly new, I have just a little bit of residue, no big deal, but you'll just keep wiping that, okay? So what you have in here is you have the shaft and you have this silencer spring. This spring is in here to reduce your noise, okay? Then you'll take out your grease, and we're going to apply it. I'm gonna move this down, give myself a little bit more room here. This is really straightforward stuff, and you're just going to run a bead. I don't necessarily need some, but you know, it seems a little dry. Do you have to have this continuous all the way down? No, you don't. Okay, so the question is, you have your flex shaft in the garage. Do you have anything you want to pay attention to? You know, frankly, the one thing I would be worried about in the garage is dust. So if I were you, I'd probably put some sort of sock over it just to keep the dust from getting into the motor, that's all. I would also think that humidity and moisture might not be really good for you. So all of that, of course, depends on where you live. I know where you live, but for everybody else, it depends on where you live. So humidity and moisture might play a part here. So as you can see here, I ran a bead all the way down and around this shaft, okay? And then I'm just going to do a little bit of a wipe, not a ton, just to sort of get it in there, okay? Just a little bit, okay? And then I'm going to put this back in. All right. You know what? I was not very mindful of which way this was going. Hold on a second. Ah, okay. So I'm going to slip this back in. Just like so. This is hanging out. You want this to be hanging out about 3/4 of an inch. I don't know if you saw that. Okay, there you go. Push this in. And then tighten this back up. Like so. Oops. Okay, it's not in. I'm going to push this in a little bit more. There's a bit of a gap over here. You probably can't see that, but I want to make sure that isn't. There we go. It actually made a little clicking noise for me. Don't think you could hear that. Okay, thumb tighten. Don't tighten it so much that you are stripping anything. That's the rule. Remember, don't manhandle things. Okay, so to put this back together, I want to point out, can you see that? There's a notch right there. Okay, that notch goes inside of the notch. You see inside of here, you see there's like a little bit, there's an inner circle and there's a void between there and there. You see that? And you need that to match up. So we're just going to look down the barrel and put it in. Voila. Plug this back in. And hold on. Actually, I forgot. You want to run this before you put this back on. I'm going to pull it back out. And I'm going to run this. Okay, that gets the grease moving all over the place. If you have grease dripping out, so notice I'm pointing this back down. You can barely see it out here. You see, watch my hands. I'm going all the way over here. There's a trash can in here, and I'm going to run it, pointing it down at the trash can just in case your grease is a little bit, shall we say, runny. Okay, so run it a little bit, and then we're going to put it back in here. Okay, in we go. There we go. It's back in. Back to normal. Okay, so to put your bits in, you see this U here? You want to make sure that you move that U and the chuck. So can you see that? Right into that U, and lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. So work that to the left to open that up. Actually, I'm going to do it with a little tiny drill bit. So if you have a little tiny drill bit, like what I just picked up, I'm going to screw this down just a little bit. I like it really small. It helps me balance the drill bit inside. And notice how I have my hand, my finger. I'm sort of balancing that drill bit because it's so small. And put it in there. Move it to a second position. And thumb tighten it. Remember, you don't want to tighten this so much. Okay. That you're stripping anything. Now, I can tell you right now, I'm looking at it and it's not straight. How do I know? Watch. See that? Yeah, you can totally see that. Once you spin it, if it's not spinning straight, you gotta straighten that out. So you're either going to break the bit or break whatever it is you're drilling. It's one of the two, but it's gonna happen. So I loosened it up, straightened it out, and again, move this to a second position. There we are. And tighten it up. Okay, so there you have it. That's how you're going to tighten this up. So the question is, where do you find 1 millimeter drill bits? Well, actually, we have sets on our website that go down to that size. I can't remember. I want to say they're somewhere between 0.75 and 2 millimeter sets. And you know, they are on the web for the high speed drill bits. I'm sorry, what am I thinking? HSS. Anyway, so yes, high speed drill bits. So, and if you can't find, just reach out to us. We can get them for you. We can special order those for you. But so we're looking at probably a 56. You know, those numbers always kill me. Ah, okay. So yes, we have the sets, but we don't have the individuals anymore. Andy's telling me in my ear. Okay. So anyway, that's how you maintain a flex shaft. Anybody have more questions? Uses? Remember, what else can we do? It's a quick one today. It's a quick demo. Next week, we're going to talk all about pearls, because it seems like not everybody understands pearls. And I just got a small collection of pearls from a very good friend of mine. So I'm pretty excited about that I have product that I can use and share and compare and explain and all that good stuff. And then what else is happening next week? So on Monday, we've got the Lily of the Valley bracelet. Actually, there we go. And of course, I'm wearing the Colossal Links, which is happening this weekend for Virtually Ever Crafting 2. And then in 2 weeks, on Monday, we have the Lily of the Valley ring. So what else is going on? So I think next week is the Twisted Sachet for the Zoom session. It's a free Zoom with purchase of kit. I don't know. So it was a really, really simple live today, just getting everybody on board. Make sure that you want to, oh, what am I thinking? You want to maintain it if you want your flex shaft to last longer. So completely lost my train of thought there for a second. So yeah, definitely maintain your flex shaft. It'll last longer for you. Be good to your tools, and like, you know, my t-shirt says, we are tool horse. So, you know, buy the tools and be nice to them. Okay, so if you don't have any other questions, that's it for me today. See, I've read about motor brushes needing to be replaced after longer uses. Is that an easy process? Ah, you just missed it. I just showed you how to replace the bushings. So rewind when we're all done here. And let's see, talk about different tools and what to do with them. Okay, so I see a question here. Can you talk about different tools and what to do with them? Throw out a couple tools at me. I have a few here. Let's see, what do we got? Sure, you know what? Something we never talk about, really, that I never bring up are these. What are these? These are blunt end cutters. And you know what's sort of funny? I always talk about cutters, and you always want a really good pair of cutters, right? So if you've been following along all these weeks, you'll see that I use the Kiba heavy duty cutters a lot, right? Because we've been using a lot of heavy duty wire. So if you want a really great heavy duty cutter, there it is, okay? For a great flush cutter, I always have the Lindstroms, okay? And so that's another really great cutter to have. But what's interesting is when I first started, these were my investments, okay? So I actually paid like $50 for these and then ruined them, but then I had it fixed. But anyway, so these are super flush blunt end cutters. And you know what, honestly, I don't use them very often, but basically that's all they are, is they are blunt end cutters. So you're cutting your ends blunt. So one of the questions here is, what are bushings and brushes? I believe we're referring to the same thing. I'm pretty clear that we're referring to the same thing because there's really not much more there. Okay. Oh, flex shaft tools. Oh, okay. Sorry. Not thinking here. Okay. So what are the different flex shaft tools? Okay. Let me go ahead and zoom in for a little bit. And so that you can see what's going on here. There we go. A little better. Okay. So a lot of these are, by the way, on our website, the Urban Beater. Okay. And so you have, I don't know if you can see this, but these are like Brillo pad type things. Okay. And these are used to create a brushed finish on your metal. And what's sort of fun is you can make your own by buying, all you have to do is buy the mandrels, the screw-on mandrels. I'm unscrewing it here for you so you can see. Okay, so these are screw-on mandrels, and what I did was literally I took a Brillo pad and I cut it, and you can totally use them. So this is what the mandrels are. Oops, the screw-on mandrels. Here we are. Okay, so you can definitely use that. And then, oops, this is sort of fun. This is an antique stand that I found at a garage sale for $1. So for punches, it's really fun. Anyway, then you have these barrel sanders, so sanding bands. So you need a mandrel. How do you do that? Okay, so these are tension set, believe it or not, which means that when you screw it in, it tightens, it expands and tightens. So the bands themselves are set by tension inside. They come in all kinds of sizes, like 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and so forth. So basically, this is a screw here. You screw it down, this expands. So when you have the sanding band inside, that's how it grips it. So you just open it up, put it on. The problem with sanding bands, for the most part, that I find is that it doesn't go down in a really fine grit. Okay, so these are always a struggle to get on for me. Okay, and then you tighten it up like so, and they're in place. Okay, so that's a sanding band. What else do we have here? Let's see. These are silicone knife edge wheels versus silicone bullet. So that just describes the shape. But the silicone wheels, they come in a lot of different grits, mostly really fine, okay? And they're used to clean up tight spots. Like here, if I want to clean inside of this, I don't know, can you see that? If I want to clean inside of this prong and get into really tight, let's say I had some solder right in there, the knife edge is really great because I can get right in there. Can you see that? So these are really great for cleaning up solder and finishing up your piece, okay? So that's another one. Same thing with the bullets. It's all about shape and what you're trying to do. So if I had a larger surface, I would use like the side of this. I could also file this down to make a really tight, a really pointed end. And again, get into these really small, tight edges, okay? So that's what that is. Muslin wheels. I love these. Okay, so muslin wheels, I use them with polish. Here, I use a lot of Euroluster. It's the same thing as, I think it's Zam. Anyway, so it's considered a finishing polish, but you use these in combination to polish your silver or your gold or whatever, instead of having a large buffing wheel. For me, that large buffing wheel takes up too much of a footprint, and so this just makes it really nice and compact, and I can have that right on my workbench. Okay, and then we have brass brushes. Okay, so these are all different types of end brushes. So these are all kinds of brass brushes, and again, you know, this is to clean up your metal after you have soldered and after you have pickled. It really makes quick work of finishing up your metal. So a question is, what can you use to cut down a cabochon? So, you know, let's just say you have a cabochon and you've made it your bezel slightly too small, and instead of making a new bezel, you want to just take down the edge of that cabochon. I would use like a red stone. Okay, so this is a stone wheel, grinding wheel, okay, with water. And these come in a whole bunch of different shapes too. Hold on, let me see if I have a couple extras over here I can show you. Let me see. I'm sorry, Andy. Yes, and I'll come to the hammer hand piece here in just a second because I have to pull it out too. Let me see what else is going on in here. Okay, so grinding wheels. Wow, I'm missing my grinding wheels. Anyway, oh, I know. This is sort of funny. So, okay, so grinding wheels, like everything else, comes in a whole bunch of different shapes. So here's another one, okay? And again, you're just gonna use this slightly with water, just a little bit to take down the edges. This is the easiest way you can do it without getting into a huge grinding wheel, right? So use them carefully. Don't let everything get so hot. Again, make sure that you use a lot of water if you're taking down a stone, okay? And you know, there's a fine line with all of that. Okay, so then another question was about the hammerhead. I actually don't own a hammerhead because, I don't know, never really quite found a use for them. But you know what I do own is, I'm trying to think of what it's called here. Hold on, I'm looking for it. Is one of these. You see that? Which is sort of similar to a hammerhead, and I can't think of the name. Lena, help me out. I know that you and I talked about it about a month ago, and you have one. So, so the what this does, I don't know if you see the little tiny, I guess you can call them bearings inside, right? Let me pull it out. I'm gonna put it on my flex shaft, and I'll show you how this works. And it sort of works like a hammerhead, but a hammerhead is a little bit more precise than this one. What am I doing here? Oh, here. So the question from Gail is, can you do that for the majestic pendant? Yes, I know why you're asking. That said, yes, you can take down the that labradorite stone very, very gently. Just remember that it is fragile, okay? And it's easily cracked. Margin roller. That's right. I can never remember what this is called, but this is a margin roller, and it's a great little tool. And this is how you would use it. Okay. So what we do with this is here. It's probably going to be really hard to see, but say you have an edge to your metal, you can use this, because what's happening is with all these little edges, it's making an impact. It's hitting and hitting your metal. Okay, hold on. Being asked to zoom in. Okay, so here we are. This is just a piece of copper, and we're just going to hit. It's burnishing, and actually it's sort of a hammer effect on the edge. And I'm just going to do a small portion. And you'll see here, you see the surface is starting to change, and you can actually see that it is starting to get fat, okay, compared to the other spaces here, right? You see that? You see the reflection. I'm going to do a little bit more. And so basically you're hammering the edge here. Okay. Okay, so you can see that my edge has gotten really thick, and if you look on the side, you can see that it's also gone down, because basically I'm hammering that down. So I'm sorry, what was the question? Do you use this to set stones? No, I do not use this to set stones. I know that you can use a hammerhead to set stones and whatnot. I don't know. Actually, I never really thought about using this to set stones. Give me a second, I'm gonna grab one. Whoops. Okay, so really scary here. Really scary, but I'm gonna do it. Because, you know, I like to live life dangerously. All right. Okay, so this was the project we did last week on Zoom. I'm sorry, Andy? Okay, so this is what we did on Zoom last week, and I didn't quite finish it. I'm close. So notice my ends here. Okay, it's slightly up. I don't know if you can see that, but it is up ever so slightly. I could push this down. It's a little bit harder. So it's a little bit hard to do with the bezel rocker, but let's see if this makes life any easier. I'm going to take this slow, because remember, labradorite is a really fragile stone. I'm going to say no. Yeah. Nah. It didn't really do too much, and frankly, so this is where you can use your hammerhead to do that. Okay. Okay, so I'm sorry. Is it more like the Whaley hammer to set stones? Is that what the flex shaft hammer piece? So yes, that's what I was just saying. Is you know, I would use a hammerhead more so than I would use the margin roller. Okay, so but again, remember that, you know, especially with this piece, because the labradorite is so fragile, I would be a little tentative about using any kind of hammer on it, okay? So, and we'll come back to the radial brush here in a second. I'm sorry, honey, what did you say? Okay. Okay. Anyway, so, okay, the margin, I'm sorry, not the margin roller. The radial brushes. Radial brushes are the same thing as with the silicone wheels that we have, okay? These are all really just finishing wheels, and it's to clean up surfaces of your metal instead of sanding. It does make life a lot easier because, you know, sanding is a very manual process. And when I learned how to fabricate jewelry, everything was done by hand. So you always had your sandpaper, and you're going to sit here and you're going to sand it, sand it, sand it. And what's nice about doing that, and I still actually, in my beginner's bezel classes, I insist that students do all of this by hand, because what it does is it requires you and allows you to see the changes as you sand it. And if you're a first timer, you've never done this before, you don't know what the different stages are to those changes, and you could go too far. But once you understand that, and you have a flex shaft, and you have things like the radial brush and the silicone wheels, you can definitely go in there and do the finishing. And I'll go ahead and finish this a little bit more and show you here how you can use this to your advantage. So same thing as the silicone wheels, the bristle brushes come in different grits. So it depends on where you are in your work and to which grit you want to choose. And actually, I'm going to use this one. Okay, so that is what it will depend on. We'll put that right in there. Again, turn it to a second position and thumb tighten that. So here, you may or may not be able to see this, but I do have a very, very slight, you see that? You see that little dot there? Yeah, I would work hard to get that out. And I would be sanding, but you can definitely use the radial brush to get in there. And this is just a quicker process than sanding by hand. But again, I always encourage students to do all of this by hand if this is your first time doing this, because it takes a little longer and your eye is closer to the piece and you can see what's happening, and the chances of you blowing through the metal is a lot less. So another thing that's happening here, and I don't know if you can see that because this is a bit finer than the sandpaper that I have, it's actually polishing at the same time. So, you know, it's sort of like the difference between using a screwdriver and a drill, right? So it's going to go faster if you use a drill than if you're screwing it in by hand. So just be very careful, because you see, slowly but surely, this is coming out. Like this one, see, I had two, one here and one here. This one's just about gone. So you'll want to start with a heavy grit and work your way down, depending on how bad your scratch is. But that's it. Wow, this is so nice. The hammer handpiece should fit a generic flex shaft. Yes. All of these are pretty much universal at this point. Okay. See, so I just turned it around and I'm looking for other scratches, and some people who have been doing this for a while use radial brushes 100%. They no longer sand by hand. And that's great. Just remember, they're a bit expensive. So on here, I actually have 3 brushes on here because they're pretty thin. So you can see I have 2 on here, except this one is just bigger in diameter. So you can definitely use 2 or 3 depending on what you're doing. You would almost never use 1 though. But yeah, it makes it such a nice finish to do it this way. and it goes a heck of a lot faster than to do it by hand. See, again, I don't think you can see that really well because of glare, but it's a great finish. Just trust me on that one. Sorry. Okay, this is me getting a little bit anal retentive even though you can't see what the heck I'm doing. Okay, so a little bit more over here, back to that spot that I started with. So I had 2 spots. The one is just about disappeared, and it takes it off so slowly that there is control. Just be careful with your grits. Don't get too crazy here. And the bristle brushes are pretty fine in general, as a general term. You know, another thing you could do is you could use your sanding band. That would go really fast because remember these things are very heavy in grit. So be very careful of that. You also have some of these sanding discs here. So sanding discs, same thing. It's just, you know, it's just a sanding. It's just a sanding process. It's all, and they do come in different grits too. And you can come right in there and sand whatever it is that you're trying to, whatever scratches you're trying to get out. But okay, so I think, let's see, I think I've answered the questions, right, Andy? Okay, so I don't know if there's any other questions out there. That's a little overview of all the different things that we've got going on for the flex shaft and different pieces and parts that you can use on your flex shaft. You know, I did do a whole thing on flex shafts. Let's see. I'm going to say that was week 3. All the videos are available on the Q Talk Facebook page, so you can go back to week 3 and take a look if this was a little bit too much of an overview. The other one is a little bit more detailed than what we're doing today because, I don't know, I wasn't thinking that you wanted to know about bits. I was thinking that we're just going to clean up a flex shaft and get you there. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. I hope you learned a little something, and I hope I broke up your week just a little bit with something interesting. So anyway, if you're not coming to Virtually Evercrafting this weekend, we will see you all on Monday for the Lily of the Valley bracelet for Minimal Metal Monday at 1 p.m. Other than that, send me questions and we'll go from there. Until Monday, we'll see you then. Have a great rest of the week.